old days, but nothing changed unless you change what's around you, how you think, how you live, how you speak, how you walk, how you blink, how you talk, how you teach, how you reach, let it sink. What's your purpose? What's your passion? Did it pain? What's your plan? Is it plain? On a plane? Hydroplane? I'm just playing. What's your purpose? What's your passion? Did it pain?
We are here, we are present, we are accounted for. This is Plugged with Molly and Joe. I am Molly, that is Joe. We are plugged in today. The Mental Warriors coming at you 7 o'clock on the dot every week on a Thursday. This is where we're at. This is what we're doing. This is what we love. So far, so good, right? Joe, what you think? Oh, Joe, you're muted, bro. You're muted. You're muted, Joe. You're muted. Uh-oh. Hey, you muted again.
See, I'm muted again? No, I'm not. I said we still here. We ready. We got a voice. People want to hear us. People want to listen to us. So I'm glad that we still here, man. We hitting the home stretch of our first season, man. Ain't that something?
Right.
We got like a month and a half and we done for the first season.
Almost the halfway mark, right? Yeah. That's the halfway mark, man. We here. We're doing it. We keep doing it. I love it. I enjoy this. This is our introduction piece where we talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Nothing really major. Nothing really, fascinating. Sometimes it's fascinating. Who knows? It might draw you in with something what we're talking about. But we're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets is out of here.
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
We right here. Our network producer has a problem with that. Last week he was riding high, really, really happy about things, how things was looking over there in Brooklyn, and then the bottom fell out. I don't know what happened, but my personal opinion is Steve Nash was prepared to coach that team. He should have been coaching that team. That's that systemic oppression as usual. Because if you ask me, it's all. Listen, I'm telling you, man. D'Antoni and Steve Nash got a job before a lot of these brothers that was very well qualified to get that job. To have 3 stars at once, Like I think for someone's first ever coaching job, that was pretty cushy, a cushy job to have. No,
it was a lot of personalities that they had to handle. KD, James Harden, and Kyrie. Like that's a lot to deal with in one season. And the fact that he kept getting injured didn't help none either. You know what I mean? So like if they were all on the floor during that Milwaukee series, I think they would have beat Milwaukee in 5. But the fact that Harden and Kyrie got hurt, that's pretty much a wrap on it.
Yeah, I mean, injured or what should I say? Load management, as Kyrie would put it. I mean, Kawhi would put it. Load management, whatever they were doing. I mean, I don't know. Chemistry was important, and the fact that they couldn't get on the court at the same time, like you said, in that series, really hurt them. But give shout out to the brothers that's on the squad. Kyrie, one of the more conscious brothers out there. I think he's very misunderstood in a lot of things that he's doing. KD, I feel like he's getting there. I think he's going to start making more noise in social, issues and the such. Being with Kyrie and James Harden is just James Harden. I don't know. He's a little weirdo.
Well, it's funny. There was just an article talking about, I saw on a Total Sports Pro, where they were silently protesting the whole season and nobody knew it. Like they would add it into their routine. Like right before the Star Spangled Banner was played, they would leave the court and not come in. So you wouldn't even realize that they were protesting. So people, I don't know if it's going to become of anything or if it's going to be any like grievance behind it, but that's pretty smart on their part. Kyrie seems like that type of brother that he's silent with his words, but you could tell when he's taking action. And I can appreciate that. Like, you don't have to be loud to get your point across.
Right, exactly. And the school year is happening. Yay to the kids. Listen, the kids went through another strange year, now it's post-pandemic. They keep calling it as if, like, when did the pandemic end? I don't know, but
yay to the educators.
Yeah, to the educators. Yes, indeed. I heard that it was really, really tough on them as well. They were expected to do so much more, almost like the whole Bible theory of, making brick out of straw, but they ain't, making brick out of straw, but you got to find the straw.
Right.
But end of the school year, applause to the kids, applause to the people, everybody. Glad these kids are still learning, even in a different time, in a different way. Yeah, I heard the teachers were stressed. It says it's not over yet. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. They keep talking about post-pandemic. I don't get that one. But what's coming up on the show, this show that you'll be able to see on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Anchor.fm, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Mixcloud, Google Podcasts, iTunes Podcasts, the Evening Rush Network.com. You can see us on Plug with Molly and Joe on Facebook. You can also see us on Instagram, MJ, Plugged MJ, at Plugged MJ on Instagram. Those are all the platforms. Actually, tune in. We're going to be Pandora also, and tune in. We're going to be on other platforms. I believe it's supposed to be television platforms. Yeah, yes, the parents were stressed. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, the parents were stressed as well. Me being one of the parents, yeah, it was pretty stressful. Because you're responsible for, you're somewhat responsible for their learning now. So it's it was a little stressful. And we can see what teachers, go through in a sense as well, with the pressure of making sure these kids learn. And then they do it times, 30 in a classroom or what have you, or whatever number it is. So yes, definitely the parents are stressed as well. You could call into us at 929-441-2417. That's 929-441-2417. We're going to go into our next segment. Which is paying homage to our ancestors. Yay. We always love to do that. It's time to shine light on some of the people in our past that has done so many great things for the cause. It's our time to show people who's done tremendous things in our personal lives, and we pay homage to, like, our fathers, as we did one time or another. But before we pay homage, what we want to do is I'm gonna have Joe speak to this next situation.
Okay, so you know how Unplugged with Molly and Joe, we kind of come up with surprises, and we have special people that come and share their stories with us and, break big bread with us, if you will. I have this amazing guest on today. We have this amazing guest on today. She's like a sister from another mister, if you will, for me. And I think that she's going to add a lot of banter to this topic and to this show. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Miss Tynesha Hill.
Hi, everybody. Super glad to be here.
Thank you, Tynesha. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now, Miss Tynesha, you're new to the show, you're new to our process. What we did our little introduction. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pay homage to one of our ancestors, and we're going to give you a time to think about what ancestor you're going to do there. So, Joe, hit us with that.
Since we are still in Black Music History Month, I'm paying attention to this honorable person from Nigeria. He was an activist. He was a revolutionary. He was a musician. The Honorable Fela Kuti.
Yes.
Listen. Fela.
Right.
Yeah. Fela is one of those type of people that would go under the radar if you didn't know. They consider him the godfather of Afrobeat, which is a style that's famous in Nigeria and Africa. He was a revolutionary. He was a social activist. He talked about the things that were important to him and had people thinking. He was like a version of a mental warrior. I often compare him to Bob Marley in Jamaica, because they both come from that same realm of thought when it comes to music. So listening to, Water, Get No Enemies, one of my favorite songs. There's so many that Fela did. And I think in the 70s when he was thinking this way, to have that music relate to us so much today, like he's still considered to be a pioneer of what music is. And I'm just very grateful that he's an ancestor. So kudos to Fela. And I hope there's more that comes from
you. Indeed. So now you understand how that goes. So Miss Anisha, we want to know, who are you paying homage to? Who you tell our producers you're paying homage to?
I'm paying homage to my grandfather, maternal grandfather. His name is Deacon Shumpert Watts.
Okay.
He is a gospel promoter, a gospel music promoter from Mississippi. He moved to New York in 1958, right after high school. He frequented the Apollo and learned the ins and outs of the music game. 1964, he started promoting gospel music and producing gospel shows. And then 1990, 1972, he was a founding member of Jazz Records. And then 1990, opened his own gospel music record company. And now he is currently still promoting music on the side. He was a radio host from 1982 to 2005. And then now he resides in Mississippi, and he is the Jasper County NAACP president.
No.
All of that. I'm still kicking at 85. It's my man.
Listen here. Like, I'm pretty sure he has so many stories to share, and all of that just sounds like he's played a part in so many different parts of our culture and our history. So,
Joe, I think you need to get on that, Joe. I think you need to get on that one, Joe. I think we need to hear from him.
He would love to be here.
I think we need to hear from him, Joe. What you think, Joe?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure he got some stories for sure.
Yeah, because I was about to start asking you questions about him. I'm supposed to be interviewing you. I'm like, all right, we're gonna save that. We're gonna save that. Yeah, there's no pick for me. All right, because I just went off the cuff because you could think of one and then come up with one or what have you and all that other stuff. I just went with a documentary I was just now watching. It's called Slave by Another Name. It's on Prime. It's on your video. Slave by Another Name. Narrated by Lawrence Fishburne, and I'm paying homage to one particular young man that was spoken of in the documentary, and his name was Ezekiel Archie. I'm sure you don't know of him as far as the mainstream, freedom fighters and the such, and the leaders of the rebellions and all of that. But he, struck a chord in me because this documentary is about the time after the Emancipation Proclamation. Okay, this is about when our people were supposedly free in this country. And the South wasn't hearing it. The South was basically losing its biggest moneymaker, which was our people, which was Black lives. We were their biggest moneymaker. And after slavery and when they were supposed to be freed, they pulled the strings in many different ways to make sure that we were in what you would call jail. In that sense, it's basically, it was, in today's time, we call it jail. And that's what I'll say to keep it simple. But it was actually called something else. I can't recall it off the top of the head. But Ezekiel Archie was caught up in this system of going to jail, 25 years old. And he was in the mining. He was down below in underground mining for this country. And he would write letters, and his letters was just calling out of the treachery and everything that happened. This is the worst, the worst thing that could happen to a human being, and all of these different things. And they did everything in their power to keep him down there, because once you went down there, the concept was you're going to die down there. Basically, you were going to not ever see freedom again in their eyes. So I just wanted to give a salute to Ezekiel Archer for getting his letters from down below in the bellows of beast and to allow us to understand what they went through, you know, and all of this pain and all the struggle and all the suffering that our people has gone through just to even get us, like I said, on a platform plug with Molly and Joe, where Joe is here and Miss Tanisha Hill is here. And that's very, you know, it just hit me hard, you know, basically what he had to go through just to, you know, just to survive. But salute. With that being said, what we're going to do is slide right on, Miss Tanisha. You can take yourself off mute, Miss Tanisha. We good, you know. Unless you got some background noise, we can't.
Some background noises, you know. I live in a Southern household, and I never know what's gonna come out my mother's mouth. So.
Oh, okay. Well, listen. We good with that too. Listen, we salute her too. So, listen, that's what's up. But yeah, current events. That's what we go to next. That's what we speak to. You can speak to whatever you will know. You can speak to, you can not speak. I mean, usually everyone speaks. So we just want to go run right into current events. And Joe, you came up with a topic this week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago, maybe it was last week or whatever. And it was talking about the impacts of non-teachers of critical race theory. First and foremost, tell us what critical race theory is.
Critical race theory is defined as an academic framework centered on the idea that racism is systemic and not just demonstrated by individual people with prejudices. The theory holds that racial inequality is woven into legal systems and negatively affects people of color in their schools, doctors' offices, and criminal justice system, and countless other parts of life. So when you're thinking of critical race theory, you're explaining the biasness or the systemic racism that upholds in our communities. The reason why I brought this up to par is because in education, a lot of education system in the United States, they no longer want to teach critical race theory.
Right, but isn't the term critical race theory just some type of scientific blah 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 in a sense to what we already know to be, I guess you would say, Black history? You know what I mean? Because that's basically the framework for those that acknowledge systemic racism. I mean, we've come up with these words: systemic racism, systemic oppression, and all these other things for the treachery that's been done to Black folk all these years. So is that just a technical way of speaking to what we already know?
No, I don't think it's technical. What I think it is, because if we still have people who are still shocked and surprised at some of the racism that has occurred and still happening, then critical race theory is important. It's real. It makes sense. And I think that's what the problem is. The people who are teaching this or don't want to teach it are unaware or don't care about the theories that exist, or don't care about the system oppression that exists. You know, they draw a blind eye to it, if you will. And that's where the problem lies. The problem is not that critical race theory isn't an issue or a problem. It's the fact that people admitting that it exists, and they don't want to admit that it exists. So that's where the problem of critical race theory is saying we don't want to teach it anymore because we don't want people that have traumatic issues of teaching it. But what about the traumatic issues of the people who suffered it?
So,
you know, and
okay.
No, and that's my problem. It's almost like it's almost like people are being punished by talking about it, or people feel traumatic from talking about it. And my only thought to that would be, well, think about the people who actually went through these things and are still going through them. If it's not critical race theory, if it's not systemic racism, if it's not systemic oppression, what is it? Tell me what it is. Like, do you have another thought process for what this stuff is?
Right.
And if it you know, but there's nothing else being offered to us. You know, people are saying
the thing is, the point is, you said the impact of non-teachers of critical race theory. That is to imply they actually teach it in the first place. You understand? True. I mean, I don't think that them taking it out the schools. I think them making it making it legal or putting in a mandate to take it out the schools takes away from I mean, you studied the theory in postgraduate school. Someone said they studied in postgraduate school, but think about it. When did you have to study it? Actually, you had to actually pay to study. You had to actually pay to learn it. This is something that could be taught. They can be taught from elementary school all over and throughout, and it should be part of every school curriculum because we were part of this history throughout. This is the same way as Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and all of these other founding fathers was important to the history of America. We as Black folk was just as important, and it should be going side by side. So there shouldn't be a situation where there's critical race theory being taught when it should just be a part of the fabric of who we are, period. You know, and that's just my take on that. So, I mean, they teach it, but you have to go seek it out in a sense, whereas there's a lot of things that we know about Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and a lot of these other white folk that we didn't have to go seek out and learn. We actually were just drilled and taught. These are the people that we know that was good people. So, you know, not to knock what you were saying, sis, but you know, that was just basically my thought on that. It's just, you know, it's taught, but yeah, look, you know, it's almost have to be it shouldn't be a college course. It should be something that, you know, that even a kindergartner or a first grader would understand, you know, what we've been through and, you know, how to shake ourselves out of it. But stop talking because Ms. Tanisha is going to have a point on this as well, do you?
I was just going to say that, you know, before even getting to critical race theory, you know, just Black history, period, is not taught in the school systems. And working in a school, I know for a fact, I'm the person that purchases the curriculum. We were told that this year we're not purchasing any Black history, anything, because they want to start teaching about the Holocaust. After speaking with my grandfather who lives in Mississippi and my cousin who is the superintendent of the Mississippi board, there has been a vote for the Mississippi school system that they will not be teaching Black history this year. And going forward, you know, they want to teach about the Holocaust. And so the question now I think is, well, why not teach about, you know, the majority of the country? You know, why not? You know, we are a part just as much as part of the fabric as, you know, Jewish people, as the white people, as Asian people.
Indeed. Alicia Buh said that rejecting it is equivalent to denying its existence. I'm not rejecting it at all. I embrace it being here. I embrace that it's being taught. I embrace that you know, that it's highlighted. What I'm not embracing is the fact that they're able to take it from us as if it was something that should be taken from us, because we stand, like someone said, we in their country. This is our country. In a sense, I mean, yes, they were here. There was people here before them. We already spoke to that. We already spoke to the indigenous people that were here before them. They came here and they dominated. They did their little, you know, cruel things and all that other stuff. And then here we come, you know, but we're here. You know what I mean? And they are embarrassed, and that's a big key to why they want to erase the whole thought of critical race theory and not have it be a problem, because then they would have to highlight all the things that they've done to us, you know?
Right. Let me piggyback off that comment as well. I think it's that they also want to, they're ashamed of the truth. They're embarrassed of speaking the truth.
Yes.
If you want to teach, like, let's take the Mississippi School Board, for example. You want to focus on the Holocaust. That's, in their eyes, is a completed story from start to finish. They did the trauma, they suffered, and they were they give reparations for it. Our story is not completed yet. Right. So it's one of those things where you look at it and go, they can't tell a complete story because there's still more chapters to it. So I can understand why you have that mindset of why teaching the Holocaust, because it looks good on paper. It's a story from beginning to end and what they're doing now. So, you know, it makes sense to me why they would want to teach the Holocaust as opposed to the African-American Holocaust.
Because it's done. Because the Holocaust is done. The oppression of the Jews is done. Their friends, their kumbaya. And so it's a happy ending to that story. I
Right.
get exactly where you're coming from, you know. And with us, there's still a problem, and you can't sit there and say, "Okay, I'm gonna teach about a problem and not fix it at the same time." And then fixing it. Right.
There's no solutions that's being offered yet. They can't offer any solutions to the problem, so it's still going to develop angst. It's still going to develop problems for people. So they rather teach about something where they can say, hey, we have a beginning, we have a middle, we have an end, as opposed to something that's ongoing and continuing. That's just my 50 cents on it. But it makes sense why the Holocaust would rather be taught than the African Holocaust.
What's going to happen here is this particular one topic is going to take up our time for current events. And it's not a bad topic at all. I'm with it all the way because our people is writing in about it and everything else. So, Ms. Tanisha, real quick, what can we do as people who have these platforms and people who are educators, and you have people that's on our panel, you know, that's writing and chiming in as you know, they're speaking to certain things. What can we do to basically keep the teachings going? Like, what do we? I mean, do we now start other organizations that's going to start to teach our kids, and how do we get our people involved in those? Because sometimes this is just plug and play. Send them to school, they learn about Black history, they don't. That's how some of these parents are.
Yeah, well, at first, you know, if I'm being honest, I believe that it starts at home. You know, we have to start at home. That's how I learned. I didn't learn about Black history in school. I learned at home. My grandfather made sure that, you know, I knew that, you know, we came from kings and queens, and before slavery, that, you know, we are of royalty and royal descent, you know. But we don't teach our kids that. You know, we don't teach our kids. We don't prepare them. We prepare them for a whitewashed world. You know, walk tall, but keep your head down. You know, and that's not, you know, what we come from. So I believe that it starts at home. I think starting other organizations, you know, it's a great thing, but what is the foundation of the organization?
All right. Someone had to have taught them.
Yeah, you know, my grandfather always tells me, you know, it's good to learn Black history in school, but, you know, it's still a white man's education.
Wow. So them taking it out of the schools, I mean, I guess what you're saying basically, that really wouldn't matter if we're being taught at home, which probably would be the truth in a sense, because even in the schools, it's their truth, right?
Yeah.
So, however their curriculum is going to go, they're going to paint the picture how they're going to pick. Like, I believe in the same documentary that I was watching, a white man actually said, he said his take on the Emancipation Proclamation was totally different than what he learned about. You understand what I'm saying? When he actually researched it and such like that. You know what I mean? It was basically, it was looked at, oh, well, they freed all the slaves, and then all these people went out there, they didn't have no wits about them, how to even behave as human beings. So of course we rallied them back up, and and so forth and the other. And then he didn't understand the politics behind it and such.
Yeah, so, all I'm saying is the Kennedys, they started teaching at home at the table. You know, white people get together, they sit around the kitchen table and they talk about what the next move is for them.
Right.
We don't do that. And we need to sit around the kitchen table and talk about, you know, from whence we've come and what we can do to pass that on to the next generation.
Yes, indeed. Joe, what do you think can we do aside from starting at homes? Because you say it start at home. What if there's a home that's behind the 8 ball, so to say? So let's say we don't have parents that actually know or have that information, wasn't taught in their homes. You know what I mean? Because remember, we're dealing with mental issues where there were things where it's neglected. So we're neglected to understand these things. So give me one real quick point of how we can do something if you don't have it at home.
Well, we need to vie for more resources where we can teach it. You know, they talk about education networks and things of that nature where they're allowed to teach it. We know the story of Cosby and how he was going to create the network for Black education. And we saw what happened with that. But it seems like anytime we try to bring forth a solution to the problem, it gets shot down or it gets negativized or, you know, something along those lines. Like it's almost as if they don't want us to learn this history of education. It's seen as a threat because it makes us smarter. It makes us more collectible.
It is a threat,
We
brother.
are already smarter than them, but they don't want to expose that.
Right.
So,
Right.
Absolutely.
We've done. Come on, we've proven it time and time again, and we don't need to beat a dead horse, right? That's what they say. So therefore,
That's it.
we're going to do right this minute. We're going to take a little quick break. We're going to hear from the Evening Rush Network, our network, the network that has a show like Plug with Molly and Joe, and all the other shows that they have on this network that speaks to a lot of things. It's all black, blackity black. Evening Rush Network.
Looking to podcast shows and do not know where to start? The Evening Rush Network can help you with that. Call us at 929-441-2417 or email us at theeveningrushnetwork@gmail.com for dates and prices. We got you for all your podcast needs. The Evening Rush Network. Tune in, subscribe, and share.
All right, Evening Rush Network, one of those networks. You could, if you're thinking about, having a voice of your own, doing something like this, doing something a little bit different, doing something totally off the cuff, holla at the Evening Rush Network. They got all that you need. We are also sponsored by my personal favorite organization in the whole wide world, Big Apple Leadership Academy for the Arts. That is the organization that I'm a founder of. Joe is a part of. We're doing big things in the Big Apple, aka Baller, sponsored by Baller. That's how you say that, Baller. All right. Hey, listen, it works, right? We are also on Instagram at Plugged MJ. We are on Instagram at Plugged MJ. We have our guest here today with us, the pleasant and beautiful Miss Tanisha Hill.
Thank you.
Yes, I gotta sweeten up the pot because I'm trying to get her grandfather on at some point because I'm sure that's a lot of energy coming up from over there, especially seeing your representation as well.
He would love to be here. Is this a phone call?
Okay. Well, you represent him well, so
appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciation to you. Listen, let's go to our topic of the day. I didn't say it earlier. My fault, my bag. I saw you talk about it, Mike. Black Music Month is still here. We're about to end it off. We ended out Black Music Month. We started off. We had Mr. Billy Mitchell, right?
Yes, Mr. Billy Mitchell.
That interview, Mr. Mitchell, that was a great interview, man. That was like one of the highlights. Apollo legend. You know what I mean? I don't know. I had goosebumps after that one. But this one is about the foundations of performing. Joe, speak to what the topic of the day is. You're talking about the foundations of performing. You're talking about black performers, mainly the black foundations.
Yes, from a performance perspective, meaning looking at how we were brought up and raised as musicians. I have a musical background. Tanisha has a musical background as well. And we were taught different.
I listen to music.
Molly as well. Listen, we all have musical mindsets, right? But when you're brought up a certain way in the music process, there's a way that you have to show yourself. You have to present yourself. You have to respect yourself. And being around other institutions that are not necessarily black music institutions, they may not follow the same. But I know for us, we were always taught to represent ourselves a certain way when it comes to performance and performing. A lot of the things that we learned were relative to our lifestyles, to our to the way that we lived. And what I wanted to talk about with this particular topic was one of the issues is the performance that we acquire, is it natural or is it showcased? Meaning,
all right, give me 1 second before we go into that right quick, right? Because we're speaking to it. I want you to give me some background to, because I believe Miss Hill is part of a institution, a foundation of performers, correct? Am I correct?
Yes.
Where are you from? Where do you work at?
I am the artistic director for the Boys and Girls Choir of Harlem Alumni Ensemble.
Okay.
And it is a group of adults who come from the Boys Choir of Harlem, which is a very famous choir from Harlem, and the Girls Choir of Harlem. And about 12 years ago, the alumni ensemble was put together by our founder, Terrence Wright. After the Boys Choir of Harlem, Inc. Disbanded, we got together, and maybe about 11 years now. No, so the choir's been together about 13 years. So 11 years now, I've been the artistic director
Wow.
of the ensemble.
That's dope. We'll speak to that about that personally later. And I just wanted to give an example of what we mean by foundations of performance, meaning where our people get the love and the knowledge and the understanding of music, of performance arts. You know what I mean? We're talking about music, we're talking about acting, we're talking about dance, we're talking about all kinds of things. Some of the origin, some of the places, institutions of Black music and Black theater and Black dances, what, the Apollo Theater, correct? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else, Joe?
You have the Alvin Ailey Dance Organization. You have Harlem School of the Arts. You have the Choir Academy of Harlem, which me and Tiny should represent. You have the Dance Theater of Harlem. You have the Chuck Brown Dancers. You have a whole bunch of organizations that are in.
I someday want my organization, Big Appalachia Academy,
right,
to be up there with the same.
Listen,
right along with them.
Listen, TEME is young, but you're doing the same things that we were doing.
Okay.
So you're a young organization, but you're still there. Like, you're continuing the legacy of what organizations of the past have done. So you must be considered. Bala must be considered in there because you're still doing the work.
Right.
As long as you're doing the work, you must be considered as as an institution. You may not have the age, but you're still there.
Right.
People can tell stories. So absolutely.
Indeed. Okay. So where we're going with it, you said you was asking the question. You said, is performance, is our performance, is it natural as a showcase? Because I was speaking to that a little bit yesterday. I'll speak to it after you speak to that real quick. I'll speak on it.
Well, what I meant by performance natural showcase, I'll give an example. I've often frequent a lot of gospel churches with guests, people from out of the country, people that don't know how the gospel experience works. And they can't believe what's coming out of our mouths when we're singing, when we're giving our thoughts and our prayers, and just how we're showing our religious beliefs. And some of them think that it's staged. They don't understand that this is coming from a traumatic place in our lives, and we actually mean what we say and say what we think. Mm-hmm. So I've had to constantly tell myself, oh, this is real. This is not a show. This is not staged. These are people who have everyday lives, who have everyday problems, and they are letting themselves go, and they're giving their almighty praises and thoughts to the almighty above. And this is the result that you get. This is a real experience that's happening in front of them. So when they see that, it's like, oh, how come I haven't lived that experience yet? Or do you have to be of some type of background to experience that? So I think is natural. I think people are expressing what they believe, what they truly believe, what they truly live. So when I don't think it's showcased. I think even a showcase can turn into a natural experience for people.
Right. Well, me personally, when I look at something, when I look at something like that, the performance natural showcase, I look at it like it depends on who's pulling the strings in a sense. You know what I mean? A lot of times, I know that naturally we are very one of the most talented people in this in this world, in this universe. But then, you have those who showcase us and capitalize off of a lot of what we do. Ms. Tanisha, what do you think
I was actually absolutely going to say the same thing. I was going to say that, because it's so natural to us, it is showcased, by others and capitalized on. So it is something that we do naturally, yes, but it's showcased so that somebody can make some money off of it.
Mm-hmm. And then, do you think it stems from way back? I think it stems back from slavery time. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think it comes, from more than before slavery. Again, back in Africa, what we do now is just an English form of what we've done, what our ancestors have done.
Right.
The same shouting and praying that we do now in these formal churches, we did in Africa. That's a part of our foundation. It's what we know. It's our form of communication.
But now, so it's communication in a sense for us. It was communication. It was how we expressed ourselves, our heartfelt emotions about our people, about our, in celebration and in joy and in expressing our arts, right?
Yeah.
But then it became entertainment. Now the natural sense of entertainment is our grandparents is laughing and enjoying Joe. Look at Joe on the horn.
Right.
Joe, you know what I mean? Okay, but then what's the entertainment? Talk to me. What is entertainment? But let's explain what entertainment is. It, like I said, it goes with the whole natural showcase situation, correct, Joe?
Yes, it does. Black entertainment, it's a business. What I mean by that is, just like anything in this country, they're gonna find ways. The elitist is gonna find ways to capitalize off of it. And you look at entertainment, and it's something that's easy on the eyes. It's something that worth a lot. Not everybody can do, and it's become a resource to a lot of people. Like, I think people can ignore the personal value that somebody would get from it. Meaning the natural experience that the person that's doing it gets from it, and put it out there in the public and say, hey, if you're ever feeling this way, try doing this. Not only do you feel good, but it's good to watch, or it's good to understand. But people are not really taking the time to understand the entertainment process. You know what I mean?
So tell me some of the origins of Black entertainment then. Like,
well, we look at
talk to me.
Well, we look at the Yoruba, which is more or less, it's an African-based Latin form of entertainment. It was their version of gospel. They prayed, they chanted to the gods that they believed in, through drums and whatever instruments of the time that existed. From there, you have American gospel, African American gospel, which is pretty much the same thing. And those, I think, are more positive than the next two I'm going to talk about, which were blackface and minstrel. Now, minstrel music was the form of music that we would do if we wanted to live on a plantation. So we're entertaining, chucking and jiving for masses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what minstrel music was during those times. And from minstrel music, you had other races or other cultures that looked at it and created a blackface. You look at Al Jolson. I always think of Al Jolson and the jazz singer. A white Jewish man had a black mask, a black face on, and acting as if he was black, singing black music. So that was beneficial to their time. Did they necessarily understand the Black entertainment? Probably not, but it looked good to them and it made them money. So they were able to capitalize off of minstrel music by making blackface.
So Tanisha, blackface, did that do anything in history towards because I think it was something that, like, we were talking about hate groups at one time in our production meeting. Talk to me about the blackface situation that I believe you were speaking to. Or was it Joe speaking to that?
I think Joe was speaking to that.
Yeah. You were saying the negative depiction of Afro-Americans revitalized hate groups and hate crimes. And that's what you said. They used the blackface to depict what they think of Black people, and mentally these people are watching what so-called Black men are supposed to be doing and supposed to act like and how they're supposed to be. And that had these hate groups and hate crimes rise, correct? Is that what you were talking about?
Well, when you look at that form of entertainment, you see us in a way. You see us in a way of life, a way of culture, right? You look at us as dancing fools, if you will. We're not very intellectually competent. We only think of certain ways to do things. Like it's almost like that's all we can do. All we can do is sing and dance for you. Like they wouldn't think about having us for any other type of profession or skill because that's what we do best. So it's like riding it until the wheels fall off. And if we're doing anything outside of that, we get questioned on what we're doing. Oh, you're not supposed to be doing that. Why don't you learn to sing? Why don't you learn to dance? Why don't you learn to entertain us? That is the main aspect. And even nowadays, when you look at it, sports is a form of entertainment, correct?
Right. Right.
Music is still entertainment. These are things that you look at. But then when you look, I'm going off course just a little bit, but I want to look at the athletes that make political statements and social statements. You have a lot of people that tell them to shut up and dribble, shut up and play. That's not your place. Your job is to entertain us. Your job is not to educate us. So that's bringing a negative aspect. So society is going to look at us and say, you're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be entertaining us. You're not supposed to be educating us. So that's what I get when I look at these groups that come out of us. And it's almost like they're appalled that we're able to do that or that we're doing that because it goes against what they expect us to be.
So moving along a little bit real quick, Tanisha, the importance of institutions of Black music, being that you're part of an institution. I want you to speak to the importance of these institutions of Black music. We're talking about the Apollo Theater, Choir Academy of Harlem, Alvin Ailey Dance Theater of Harlem, Harlem School of the Arts, Baller. I was actually thinking about it. Motown was an institution of Black music, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of those Black-owned record labels is institutions of Black music that were muted, at some time and point. Whereas because once they see that they can make so much money off of us, all they do is throw a little more cash at us, and then we go flying to their labels. So we're not going to talk on those things. What is the importance of institutions of Black music or the foundations of Black music?
So I think the importance of those foundations are, again, so that, our children can gain a sense of pride, because they can learn, and they can be just as productive as any other person in society. So the importance of those foundations is to build our kids. I can speak for myself. By going to the Choir Academy, I learned how important it is to learn the fundamentals of music, as far as like how to read music, as far as how to the theory of music, as far as the Bach and the Beethoven, how they came up with stuff and their theories. And I learned that foundation. And so then as I got older, I was able to audition for a white conservative. I didn't get in because I just wasn't ready to just sing classical music. I wanted to sing what I had been taught, which is spirituals and gospel. And know, it's great to know about Bach and Beethoven, all those things, but I wanted to sing, gospel music. So I think that the foundation, those foundations are, important. I know after working with some people at Dance Theater of Harlem, I know that, those kids, they take pride in learning how to dance ballet from a Black ballerina. Those from as far as at HSA, Harlem School of the Arts, my aunt, she went there and learned how to play the piano. She took pride, and till this day, at 50 years old, she remembers her Black piano teacher who taught her how to play. And so a Black foundation, in those institutions in this entertainment field is important, is super important, because you just need that encouragement. And, I just feel like nobody can encourage our own better than us.
Right. Because I believe also one of those places, I'm thinking real quick, Debbie Allen has an academy as well, right? I believe.
Yes, she does. Yes.
So that's one of those places you were talking about, where it's one of ours, teaching teaching all of these different genres of dance and such. You know, I have one of my little people who dance for our program, TME. She's all over the place as far as dance is concerned, and when it comes down to that critical, you know, like I guess you say the critical theories of dance and all that other stuff, and the ins and out of dance, she has to go and learn elsewhere, and we don't have any type of institutions that she can actually go and learn these things.
Right.
Where Baller or myself and my team is trying to change that kind of thought pattern.
And that's important, you know, and I can speak for myself. Like when I go out to get background gigs for major artists whose backing companies are big labels, the first thing they ask you is, can you read music?
Right.
You know, do you know how to, you know, do you understand what's going on? And if we don't teach our kids that, it's like, no, you know.
A lot of people don't. So
and that's important.
Mm-hmm. It is. I've seen that firsthand. Joe, why are we trying to save these musical institutions? Why are these musical institutions or these foundations of performance, so to say, in jeopardy? Why are we losing them? Like, what's going on here, and how can we save them?
Well, it's gotten to a point where the people who control the budgets don't see the importance of it because it may not be beneficiary to their kind or their people that they support. I'm going to say the reason why we need these institutions is for us is our true calling is to be entertainers and are to be music specialists, if you will. We need to ride it until the wheels fall off, if you will. That needs to be our bread and butter. So I think what it is there's not too many of us finishing. You know, we start strong, but we don't finish.
Right.
You know, we don't have a lot of people who get to that certain level of conductor, certain level of music specialist, certain level of musicologist, if you will. And there's a lot. The thing is, there's a lot of our culture, and I'm speaking mostly for African Americans and minorities. There's a lot of our culture who loves it, but I know from my personal experience, it's a lot of hard work. It's not easy. Like I've heard people tell you that they just want to become a guitarist overnight, or they just want to start to sing like Beyonce or whatever the case may be, but not realizing how many years was put into that.
Right.
You know, I started at 9 years old, you know, when I started with the Boys Choir of Harlem, 9. And I still didn't take it too serious until I got to maybe 12, 13. But when I got to 12, 13, that's when I started understanding the foundations of music. I was able to read music. I was able to write it. I have perfect pitch, so I understand it better than most. But not everybody has that same process.
Okay.
And I think what we need to do as directors, what we need to do as teachers, educators, we need to let them know that there is a sacrifice that has to be made if you want to be the best at your field.
Correct. Okay.
It's not just about wanting to do it. It's about the work that comes with it. And today's generation's not really comfortable with the work.
Yeah, they're not built for that. Tanisha, do you have any quick something to say as far as how do we keep our children interested in the craft, and not only interested in the craft? What are some of the obstacles that we face with trying to acquire and retain interest in the craft? Like, how is it hard for such programs such as myself, who I've seen that where, you know, you think you would have, you know, kids beating down the doors because it's a free program. And it's not the case, you know what I mean? We looking for trumpet players. Listen, we looking for trumpet players. We looking for horn players. We looking for drummers. We got the instruments now. Listen, once upon a time we didn't have enough instruments for the people that we had there. Now we got more. You know, now we're having a surplus of instruments, but we just all of a sudden it's finding hard to find the kids. So how do we keep our children interested in the craft? Tell me, as someone who's trying to do so.
For me, what kept me interested in music was going to actual performances. So I started, you know, I've been singing since I was 6 years old and recording. And what kept me interested was going to these very places, being in the studio with paid musicians, or, you know, and just sitting and watching, and knowing that this is a possibility. Again, I just think that our kids don't see too many positive people doing what they can do. So I say, you know, get them to places of introducing them to what they can do. So taking them to
more performances.
More performances, yeah, for sure. Taking them to, I would have never thought that my niece could act, but I started taking her to Broadway plays when she was young, and now she just loves to watch performances, and she wants to pursue that. So you got to give them something that will make them feel like, hey, it's worth it if you pick up a book, or not a book. Would you pick up that instrument? You keep working at it, but then let me show you what you can be. You know, what you should aspire to be. You know, show them Black excellence. Show them what, you know, a great dance group looks like. You know, and to be completely honest, you know, some of these schools will allow you to come in and watch a rehearsal.
Okay, wow.
So that these kids can say like, hey, oh, you know what? I want to do that.
Let's note that. Okay.
Yeah.
So because I agree, because I remember in PS9, I think my sister's on here, she'll tell you PS9 was one of those schools, and I think we've benefited from this school being as such one of those schools that would take, like, our teachers was that way. They would take us to Alvin Ailey. They take the Alvin Ailey shows. They'll take us to the boys choir of Harlem, and Girls Choir of Harlem and stuff like that. The Apollo Theater. We've gone to a lot of these different institutions in the heyday. I'm talking about the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
It did spark something in me. Not anything to pick up an instrument per se. I mean, you know, there were things that probably pulled me away from doing that. But in my heart of hearts, I always knew that community work and being part of the solution to our community's problems was always one of those things that I was always interested in.
Yeah, I mean,
of talent.
If you think about it, most of our kids want to be rappers. Why? Because that's what they see, you know, and they know maybe the local rapper in their hood that came from where they are. Like, okay, he came from us. I can do that.
Right.
You know, so expose them to what we think that they should be.
So it's the same concepts, because they see the rappers doing it up. So now you can see a dancer doing it up. You can see a gymnast doing it up. You can see a runner doing it up. Joe, what can be done to address this issue? And real quick, just let's close us out with this Foundations of Performance. What can be done to address this issue in your mind?
More of us who care, more of us who support the foundations of music. We need to go to the people who hold the purse strings and let them know how important it is in our communities and what it could do. Give them prime examples of people who have benefited from it and are benefiting from it. Like, don't let it just fall to the wayside. You know, have a strong support system. Have those who support talk about it and let people know how it's working, how it's supporting the kids, how it's supporting the people, how it's keeping people working, how you know, just all of these type of things. Like, if you have a strong support system, it won't die. If you have a strong foundation, it won't die. But we have to continue to allow that foundation to flourish. We have to continue to support it in any ways. You know, that's the only way you can really grow something, right? If you're growing something, you got to pay attention to it. You got to keep it going. But if you ignore it and leave it, it'll die out. It'll falter. It'll wither, right? So that's what we have to continue doing. And there has to be more of us. Maybe, I'm not sure if there's a Black music in New York, maybe, but if there could be like a board or some type of organization for Black music institutions, we all get together and go to those who got the money and say, hey, this is why we're important. This is what we're doing. Okay.
So, well, basically, you're talking about organizations like my program, Baller, that creates.
I was going to say, Baller is it.
Like jazz bands to address dying arts programs in the public education system. The lack of cultural relevance in existing programs, because we don't have that. We don't have the people that's teaching us. Like you said you want us to teach us. You know what I mean? So we're trying to introduce that to our people, and the lack of resources available to families living in urban communities such as ours to pursue such learning at external private institutions. Because when you have all these other big institutions, their institutions, they're pretty costly. Whereas they basically just saying, okay, we're going to put a price on this kind of education, and we can't reach it, we can't attain it. So that's why it's a lot of slavery. It's debt slavery. It's a lot of different versions of slavery. But we're going to run right into our what we call an interview portion. And I'm sorry that we don't have a bunch of time, but we do have time because we did hear about who she is, what she was doing as far as the Boys and Girls Choir of Harlem Alumni Ensemble. Kudos to you for what you do there. We would have you on again just to speak to these things as well, especially when we're talking about music. But how did you become interested in music? Give us that real quick.
Church. I grew up in church. My family is rooted and grounded in the church. My grandfather was a Baptist minister, and I started there.
Well, I want to be at a performance one day, so you let me know, let Joe know, and I'm there. I want to see you perform, do it up. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who is Tanisha Hill?
Tanisha Hill is the middle child of 3 girls. I started singing with my sisters we were a trio, but we started singing quartet music because my grandfather was a gospel promoter. So we traveled the tri-state area from the ages of, I was 6 and my older sister was 9. So from 6 to 15, we traveled the tri-state every weekend singing in different churches. And then at the age of 14, I started the Girls Choir of Harlem, and I became a part of the a performing choir, and I did a 46 state tour with them at the age of 17. And now I'm just the artistic director. Well, not just, I am the artistic director of the Alumni Ensemble of Harlem. And we do performances around New York area. Well, we've been to Japan, China, Korea.
Okay, that's not just around the way, you know that.
Yeah. So we've done those things. And so I got my start at church. My skill was honed by my classical voice teacher, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yes, so that's crazy because you saw that's history. Like girls, I saw the Girls Choir of Harlem, so I'm like, okay, I don't know, maybe I saw you, I don't know, but I don't know. Who knows?
Probably not. Maybe not me.
All right, who knows? All right, so. Now, there was a question that was brought up at production, and it speaks to you being entertainers, you and Joe, right? Over the years, as you advance in your performing arts career, right? Mm-hmm. Did you ever get to a point where you felt like you just didn't want to do it anymore? Like you was just like, I'm done. This is it. I'm not doing this anymore. Absolutely. And I have another question behind that. Yes.
Absolutely. And for me, it wasn't so much just performing. Because before I went to Choir Academy to learn classical singing, I didn't want to sing anymore because I felt like I'd sang at every church that I could possibly sing in the tri-state area. And I was like, I don't need to sing anymore. I want to play basketball. And my mother said, not so. So but I did feel like, there's nothing more to get out of music. There's nothing more to get out of singing. Like I've sung all of the high notes I can sing. I'm done. And then also as a female in the role of leadership, I've often thought about like, nah, this is not where I want to be. Because it's a tough business to be in. Entertainment business is tough, especially as a female, because you're just expected to, look cute, do what we say, have a slim waist and be ready, and I am just not that girl. So,
Joe, do you have any questions? This is your partner. I mean, this is your partner, man. Listen, go ahead, man. You finish. You close us out with this one. You got any questions for your partner in crime there?
Well, how did you overcome those feelings of not wanting to do it anymore? Like, what kept you in the game, if you will?
I have a Southern Black mother who told me that if I give up now, I will be giving in to what every person who thought I couldn't do it said. So I had no choice. You know, as the middle child, you always want to make your mama proud because, you know, I was the most rambunctious. And so I took what she said to heart, and I just wanted to make sure that I was never giving anyone the opportunity to say I gave up.
Wow. Well, I can totally relate to that. There's just times where you have creative burnout, if you will. Like you said, doing something for anything, doing something for a long time. We're human beings. We're not robots. You know, we're not, you know, we have moments where we need to take sabbaticals, or we need to just mentally prepare ourselves for the next steps in our life. And like you said, in the entertainment business where it's 24/7, 365, they don't expect you to have a turn on switch. So that's part of it. So I think it needs to be included in that. And then I think with our rest, we can come back better, or come back with a greater sense of mind on how this system works, if you will. How would you advise the young people who want to get into the industry? What advice would you give to them? That's number one, who want to become musicians and performers. And how would you advise the young people who are close to quitting because they feel like it's too hard, or they just can't deal with the pressure?
I think the answer to that all the way around is stick with it. You know, I would tell the young person who's coming up, stick with it. Try to find someone locally who you can reach out to, who is doing what you want to do. There are a lot of organizations like Balla that are offering, you know, these students, these kids, opportunities to be a part of something artistically great. So find something, find an artistic, you know, program that will assist you in being great. And to that person who is suffering from fatigue, entertainment fatigue, and you just want to quit, it's worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for.
Okay, because this is entertainment as well. Shoot, sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. So I get it. I get it. We in our infancy, so I'm like, okay, I understand exactly what you're talking about. Because sometimes you be like, "Ooh, do I got it this week?" And then all of a sudden you get in front of that camera and you start talking, and it just comes to you, you know.
Yeah, because then you have to also think about, if you don't do it that week, there'll be somebody looking and say like, "Well, what happened?"
Right, indeed. Joe, any closing words real quick, Joe?
As we close, this has been a great Black Music History Month for us, and I'm grateful to have you on our show, Tynesha, because, you know, I know your story, and I want other people to know your story. For those who are listening, for those who will go back to this one day and say, hey, if that's how she felt, maybe that's where I can end up, you know? So I'm very grateful for you to be a guest on our show today. And we would love to have you on in the future just to bake bread, if you will, you know, shoot the breeze, other things. You're not just an entertainer, you're an educator. So I'm pretty sure there are other things that we could talk about where it'll be just as impactful as what you've talked about today.
Right. Because we don't just bring in our people just to do an interview. You know, you gotta come talk, you gotta come and say something. You know, what you know about what's going on in this world. You know,
right? I appreciate it,
because we could just say okay, this is so and so. What do you do? Why do you do it? And all the other cliches, but I think it shows more into how you speak to the topics, you know, that you're involved and you want to be involved and you're thoroughly involved. And I appreciate you, my dear. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much for having me for this time.
No doubt. And we will see you again. And this is Plugged with Molly and Joe, the Mental Warriors. Everybody, peace.
Peace.
Peace.